Many generations now, we have suffered. The Washichu we spoke to, but they don't hear. They're deaf. The women, the children, the old ones, they suffer. You're from the cities. You are our warriors. Our warriors. They're deaf. We must now walk in the sacred way.
Now I go back to Genesis 49 and I'm going to finish that verse. It says, unstable as water, thou shalt not excel, because thou wentest up to thy father's bed, then defiled thou it. He went up to my couch. Right? When you read in the history, that's what Reuben did. Reuben lay with Jacob's concubine, so that's what
he committed adultery.
He committed adultery, which was all set up in the spirit, because Reuben wasn't meant to be the head tribe anyway.
That's right.
You know, the scriptures say man's going of the Lord. How can a man therefore understand his way? Now, when you go to the book of Deuteronomy 33, right, with Moses, right, when Moses, which was basically saying the same thing like with Jacob prophesying about the tribes, Deuteronomy chapter 33, verse 6. He said, let Reuben live and not die, and let not his men be few. So that was a prophecy that the Lord through Moses put out there. Okay, because why? Basically, Reuben, like the Lord said, thou shalt not excel. He committed adultery. He's supposed to be put to death for that.
That's right.
But Moses, the Spirit said, let him not be, his men be few. So that's why the Lord, even though when them devils was coming, and they killed a lot of Reubenites, men, but the Most High allowed it to where they wasn't able to kill us off. To basically, like the elder said, they had to basically call it a truce, so to speak. I mean, they moved us out of our area and they pushed us into the glades and certain. They did that with a lot of the other tribes as well too. You know, but the Most High said, let them not be few. So that's why, because when you go in the book of Revelations, the 7th chapter, when it speaks about the tribes, it tells you out of the tribe of Reuben, there's going to be 12,000 men that's going to be delivered that are part of that 144,000.
That's right.
Just like it's going to be 12,000 out of the tribe of Gad. All right, but now jump down to Gad real quick, to verse 19. This is Genesis 49 and 19. It says, Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last.
That's right. Now we're dealing with Gad. The rest of the so-called American Indian tribes, whether it be Cherokee, Lakota, Nez Perce, Blackfeet, okay, Wampanoag, so-called Mohawk, Iroquois, okay, Delaware, Lenape, Shinnecock, right?
Right. It says that Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last.
Who was the troop that overcame the tribe of Gad? The so-called American Indians, all the American Indians, the so-called United States soldiers.
Yep.
Okay, the United States government and their army. Okay, they sent soldiers out to conquer Indian lands, right? Tecumseh, the brother wanted to do a show on Tecumseh. It was William Henry Harrison and his armies, Governor William Henry Harrison and his armies that conquered Tecumseh and the Shawnee and pushed them out of the Ohio Valley. Right? George Armstrong Custer, he came, was out west in South Dakota and Montana and up in them areas in Nebraska, attacking the Crow and the Lakota and different tribes and forcing them into subjection. It was what was his name? That came against the Apaches, man. It'll come to me. It'll come to me in a second. Crook, yeah, General George Crook. He also was up there fighting against the Lakotas, conquering the so-called Lakota tribes, and then he was sent down into Arizona and New Mexico, and he was the one that came against and conquered a lot of the Apache tribes and forced them onto the reservations. The troop, the United States Army, the cavalry,
that's right,
the infantry, they were the ones that conquered. That's self-explanatory, because the so-called American Indians, all those tribes that I mentioned, are the tribe of Gad, because they're all warrior-like people. And when you look at the so-called American Indians, you can definitely see that they are the tribe of Gad by the things that they do. Okay?
Right, because one thing when they speak broken Hebrew, they say that the Hebrew prayer that the Israelites were saying back there, the Shemai, Yasha Allah, Yahweh Allah, Yahweh Echad, which is Hear, O Israel, the Most High, Yahweh is our power, He is one. You know, loosely translated. They were saying, and it's all kind of records, and the brother might put it up there. This is what the Native American Indians were saying.
That's
How did they know to say that? Because why? It was already in their spirit, man.
That's
okay?
right.
And then Gad, the word Gad itself, which, you know, in the Bible, the names were given, they were prophetic names. The word Gad itself meaning truth. So that's why I said a troop shall overcome them.
Which Gad were warriors. That's a warrior life. The Native Americans are known for what? They're renowned for their warrior, for their warrior nature. The white man even knows that, because the whole so-called military system of the United States government is based upon Native American war tactics. And the white man tells you that. If you've ever been inside of the white man's military, we have brothers that are in GMS that were in the military. Shit, we got family members that was in the military. Okay? I know plenty of people that was in the military. Matter of fact, I have one friend of mine's, okay, this brother, his name is Jimmy. Right? I worked with him for like 8 years. We worked together on a job, and we became very close friends. He's an older brother. He's a Gadite. All right? He's so-called Chippewa Ojibwe Indian. Right? And he was in the army. He fought in Vietnam. He was in the special forces, man. He was a damn special forces ranger. Did two tours in Vietnam, and this dude, he's a warrior to the core. He's still a warrior to this day. And he said it, and they all said it. He said, look, when you go in the military, they straight up tell you that, yeah, we learned our tactics from the Indians, from our guerrilla warfare tactics we adapted that from the Native Americans.
Yeah.
Okay? Yep. Putting on the war paint. Yeah, guerrilla warfare, because the white man's armies, going back to the colonial times, they would march out and walk right into bullets. And they noticed the way the Indians fought. We would stick in the woods and stealth, stick and move,
flank you,
stealth.
We got almost like in 300. The Native American Indians were known for that. They'll set your ass up. They'll draw you out into an ambush and lure you into an ambush.
Yeah.
You know, the next thing you know, you might see a couple of Gadites, and the next thing you know, you're surrounded by a whole bunch of warriors, man.
Well, that's what Crazy Horse did to Custer.
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty much what Crazy Horse did to Custer.
That's right.
Okay, use live human bait to draw them into an open area and then flank them. Okay, to where they were surrounded. Then it was just like a duck hunt after that. Okay, that's how the Battle of Little Bighorn up in Montana went down. That's what happened to Custer. That's pretty much what Crazy Horse did to Custer, to Shunka would go. And another thing, and I was watching a documentary, not a documentary, an old film on YouTube with Russell Means, the late Mr. Russell Means, who was one of the co-founders of the American Indian movement. And he was actually a Oglala Lakota, a Gadite from South Dakota, all right? Which I met Russell Means on many occasions in the past. I know his son. I know some of his family members. Okay, I spent time on the reservation he's from. Okay, people that know him. Anyways, he was giving a speech back in the 80s in front of a Congress or something like that, and he started speaking in so-called Lakota, which is really Hebrew.
Hamatakwepe, Miyama Lakota. Imajanta Han Wakin Zitioshpai, Kile Hesapakin, Lila Wakan. Mitaki Ate Tashunka Witko Tioshpai. Mitaki Ina Wambli Zuya Tioshpai. This is a traditional greeting of my people that I am bound to give, albeit it's a short version. What I said in my own language translate into English thusly. Hello, my relatives. I am an Oglala Lakota, and I come from our very sacred holy land, the Black Hills, where Yellow Thunder Village is. My mother is from the War Eagle clan, and my father's family is from the Crazy Horse clan. This greeting is to this day the way all Indians throughout the nation still greet one another, those that still know their culture. This is the only way we present ourselves to one another that is acceptable. We tell you who we are, where we are from, who we are from, our clans, and we do this without ever saying our name. Anything less would be an insult to you and to my people.
Goes back to the Hebrew, and then he interpreted what he said. He said, first of all, I'm greeting you all, and I'm telling you who I am, and my name, and my father's name, and where I'm from. Now, we brought out in the studio show with Elder Tahar, that was a custom of the Israelites.
Yep.
In the ancient world, when the Israelite met another Israelite, or if you went somewhere, you greeted another person, you said your name, what tribe you were from, who your father was, who your family, your household was. So that proved that the Native Americans are Israelites, man.
That's right. That's what Malcolm, y'all went into that too. Y'all brought out the scripture in Numbers.
That's
they
right.
was reckoned after the pedigree of their father.
Get that. Let's get that. Let's bring it out again.
Right. Yep.
Like, in other words, if I would greet you in the ancient Israel, I would say, Shalom, my name is Rakaya Allah, Bon Ra'al, Bon Yasha Allah. Right? But then I might say, my father, I would say, of the house of, well, my father's name was Ralph. Right? My father's name was Ralph Earthhawk. That was his Indian name. I would say, I'm of the house of Ralph Earthhawk. That's my father, you know? You understand what I'm saying? So, but in ancient Israel, that's what you would do. You would answer who you are, what tribe you're from, then you would say, of course, the nation you're from. But then you would also say, well, of the house of my father, so I would say my father's name. And maybe I would even say my grandfather's name. Okay?
Right. Now this is the book of Numbers, chapter 1, verse 17. It says, and Moses and Aaron took these men which are expressed by their names, and they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families.
That's right. They're aligned. Mm-hmm. They're aligned by their families.
By their families, by the house of their fathers.
The house of your father, not your mother, your father. And that's what the Native Americans do. That's what Russell means. We could probably put a clip of that up. We probably have the producer put that clip up when he gave the greeting and then explained what he said. And he said this is proper. This is what Russell means. Said this is the proper greeting that Native Americans everywhere are to give.
Yep.
Okay? He said where he was from, his family, his tribe. You see what I'm saying? So that proves that the Native Americans are Israelites.
Okay.
So these guys out here that's talking about Native Americans ain't no Israelites, man. They're Moabites, they're gooks. You're just guys that are really uneducated. Also, too, a lot of you guys that say that, you're just idiots that have never been nowhere and haven't. See, you got a lot of guys that's from these big cities or whatever, the bonehead niggas that's from, maybe they're from New York and maybe you from Chicago. And you got in Chicago, you got plenty of Indians in Chicago. Downtown Chicago somewhere you got a Native American community center. You got all kind of Indians in Chicago. Probably more than in New York. But you got a lot of Indians that live in New York too. And you got an Indian community center down in New York. Not too far from where we speak. I used to I used to work down there. I used to work at the Indian Community House. Years ago when I first came up from Florida, I used to go and work on the newsletter at the American Indian Community Center down. But at that time, it used to be down in the village, down on Lafayette, okay, in Greenwich Village. Yeah. So you got a whole bunch of Indians that live right here. Madam, like I said, I can give you a hint. They live in Brooklyn. Live right in Brooklyn. Full-blood so-called Indian brothers and sisters. Okay? So, that's what I'm saying. You got a lot of Gadites, but we're not prevalent. I mean, you know, you got Gadites here, but it's not as much as you would see if you went out west or down south or Canada.
Well, and I'm gonna say this too. And a lot of Gadites, people don't know that they Gadite.
That's right.
Because you know, I'll give you a case in point. At first, which I mean, I knew that I had Indian blood or whatever, but I grew up Judah. I grew up on the Northeast. And I grew up around a lot of cats, which really come to find out that they're Gadites, but we all grew up, Judah, the head tribe, and that's the way we grew up.
Yeah, they grew up amongst Judah.
Yeah, the majority of you cats, you got Issacharites that grew up like Judah. You got Ephraimites that grew up like they was Judah. So anyway, but then after a while, but I knew that my grandfather grew up.
You knew you had the bloodline, but you didn't claim it.
Well, yeah. In other words, because we was lost. The scripture said that the Most High said we was gonna discontinue from our heritage. So I didn't really fully know, but I knew my grandparents grew up on reservations. My father's grandfather and my mother's grandmother, all right, grew up on reservations. So then I had to go back and say, well, wait a minute, because this world teach you are what your mother, this, that, and the third. I had to say, nah, with my father, my father go back to Reuben. So I said, I'm not Judah, I'm Reuben. But there's a lot of, even in the North, like the brother said, they might not look like the traditional Native American Indian look that you might see out west.
The kids around my neighborhood used to think I was Cuban at the time because I looked different. So I guess the way it works is people are so used to seeing what is depicted as an Indian within the movies, the old movies and things. So if you don't look that way, they don't expect you to be Indian. They think you're either black or Hispanic or something else.
When we were coming up, it was a bad stigma, I guess, to be Native American. And so, I mean, you was just classified as black, or that's the way you went. And a lot of the older people, they never told you. I mean, it was a long time before I really found out what my heritage was.
A lot of people that go through the museum, when they go into the portrait gallery, the last exhibit that you're going to see on the second floor, and there's portraits of Mashantucket Pequot people. And they walk in and they're like, they're not Indian, they're black.
I think also because I sometimes had a rather difficult upbringing as a child, because I did feel in between, I guess is the best way to put it. When I was first going to school, I went to a private Lutheran school, and I was the only child of color in the entire school. And I had wonderful experiences with my teacher, but not such great experiences with the students around me. When we moved to another neighborhood and I went into a public school, it was primarily a black school, and I was thrilled. I thought when I saw more children that had chocolate skin that I'd be able to join in and I'd be more of a part of a group. And that wasn't the case at all. It was quite a shocking and disappointing experience for me to realize that they too thought I was not like them.
I was in Narragansett when to be an Indian really was unheard of, because when I was in school, we were taught Eastern Indian history as if it was like learning about the ancient Trojans. When I was in the 4th grade, I got sent out of class because one of the questions was, when did Columbus discover America? And I crossed out discover and put invaded.
Which those are Gadites too, and Reubenites.
That's right.
But a lot of you dudes that thinking that you black or Negroes, a lot of y'all,
your line might go back to Gad.
Some of y'all family go back to certain parts of Virginia where Gadites were inhabited,
That's right. But your great-grandfather or great-great-grandfather probably might be, in other words, you got a lot of guys that look straight up like Judah. Right. They might be Gad and Reuben.
Exactly.
But see, that's the point. They don't know. They thinking they just like Judah, or regular so-called black. So of course they don't pay no mind to it.
Right,
but I'm talking about these boneheads.
Yeah.
Which, well, that's the point. Some of you boneheads talking that shit might be Gad or Reuben, right? But you're uneducated because you never been nowhere, and you haven't been amongst Indians or Indian culture, so you wouldn't even know that. Well, yeah, wait a minute, that kind of resembles something that the Israelites would. Yeah. So well, basically, you're just reprobates anyway. Yeah,
you guys ain't been around the tribes. Now check this out.
Yeah,
now
not just Gad or Reuben, Issachar or the other tribes.
Yep. Ephraim, all of them.
See, now me on the other hand, I was raised up in the so-called Indian culture, knowing who I was and all that. I used to spend summers on the reservation with my grandparents, my father's parents, of course, right? And I've been amongst Gad, Reuben, I've been amongst Issachar, Ephraim, and then I've been amongst Judah, and I've been amongst Benjamin. My mother's a Benjamite, but my mother was raised up as Judah.
Same here. My mother's a Benjamite.
Okay, my mother, she was raised. Now my mother's mother was a Gadite, though.
Same exact layout, man.
Okay, she was a Gadite, but she married a Benjamite man, right, from Trinidad, and she rose her kids up pretty much. She didn't raise her kids up. They knew about it. My mother told them about it. My mother always talked about her Indian blood and shit like that, right? But my grandmother, my mother's mother, she died like right after I was born, so I didn't really get to know her like that. But I knew her other family members, her brothers, an uncle of mine, or a great uncle, who was a chief over the band. And he was deep into the culture, which these brothers know who I'm talking about. He's since passed away a few years. Okay, a man by the name, he used to go by the name of Chief Sitting Son, who I was very close with before he passed away. But that's on my mother's side of the family. But on my father's side, my father, grandparents were very immersed in the culture, and they saw to it that I was. But then I would live amongst my mother, and my mother's family. But so I got to taste both worlds, so to speak. You understand? But a lot of you guys, the spirit ain't working with you, and you just reprobates, man. When you talk that madness about the North American Indians and then furthermore, forget about old traditions and all this type of stuff. If you hang out around a bunch of Indians, it's just like being around a bunch of niggas, man. They act just like niggas.
Same thing.
They listen to rap music. They wear the baseball caps. The spirit bear. When you hanging around a bunch of Indians, you keep these guys. They act just like Jake.
They got rhythm just like Jake.
You damn right.
Cook the same food, everything.
But y'all wouldn't know that because, like I said, a lot of you idiots ain't never been nowhere.
Yeah.
You ain't never been around none of the other tribes. You hang around a bunch of Mexicans. These are ill. You hang around a bunch of Puerto Ricans, which I grew up around a lot of Puerto Ricans. I've always been real tight with Ephraim. Because, hey man, I always had a thing for Ephraimite women, Puerto Rican. I've always been attracted, had a fancy for Ephraimite women.
Yeah.
So I ended up being around Ephraim hardcore. And for you to say the Puerto Ricans ain't Israelites, you're just a blind ass fool, man.
Yeah, you an idiot.
How could you look at be around Puerto Ricans and say they're crackers?
You a straight up idiot, man. You ain't. Basically, the spirit of the Lord ain't dealing with
the spirit of the Lord ain't dealing. Puerto Rican spirit. Hey, that's just deal with Ephraim. Man, when they dance the salsa, merengue, bachata, the food, the way they act.
Yeah. But yet they be wanting them a Puerto Rican woman. Everybody at one point a Puerto Rican woman was the hottest thing out there, man.
Yeah.
All right, but now check this out. Now I want to get back, if I may.
Yeah.
Get back to the scripture here because about what it said about Gad being a troop. Now this is another scripture to further back up what the brother was saying, because Gad was a warrior tribe. Reuben was a warrior type tribe. And that's how you know. Now this is another characteristic to show beyond a shadow of a doubt that Reuben and Gad are the Native American Indians and the Seminole Indians, man. This is the book of 1 Chronicles chapter 5 verse 18. It said the sons of Reuben and the Gadites and half the tribe of Manasseh.
There go Manasseh again too.
Of valiant men able to bear buckler and sword.
That's right. They were warriors. They know how to use weapons. We were experts at weaponry. The bow and arrow, the knife, Indian war tactics. The most dangerous person with a knife in their hand is a so-called American Indian.
That's right.
That's skilled in war. Lances, we used to use lances, tomahawk, and we didn't throw tomahawks. That shit about we're gonna have a tomahawk throwing count. That's some shit the white man can't. The mountain men.
Yep.
A real Indian wouldn't throw his tomahawk because then your enemy could pick it up and use it on you. or you might miss. You kept your weapon in your hand, and you used it to dispatch your enemy, man. Okay?
That's right. It says, men able to bear buckler and sword, and to shoot with bow and skill, and which right there they make what they call them, bow and arrows, when they make mockery of Gad.
Yeah, they call us bow. That's a derogatory phrase for an Indian. Like you call a so-called black man a nigger. Or they call us niggas too, prairie niggas. Out west they call the Indians prairie niggas. Or they call us bow and arrows.
Yeah,
look at them bow and arrows. Look at them drunken bow and arrows over there. Or Tonto.
But now everybody knows that the Native American Indians, that's how they used to hunt, with bow and arrow. They were expert with it, man. They were archers. They were sharpshooters with them bow and arrows.
They were surgical with that.
They were surgical, man. That's right. It says, well, the scriptures back it up. It says, able to bear buckler and sword, and to shoot with bow, and skillful in war.
That's right. The Apaches. And wait a minute. The white man. I was watching something on that the other day. When they first came out with that so-called Apache helicopter, they had an actual Apache Indian come in to so-called christen that. Then they named it after why? Because they respected the hell out the Apache warfare. The Apaches were like experts at guerrilla warfare and stealth. See? So was our tribe, the Seminole tribe. The Seminole tribe. We were experts at guerrilla warfare and stealth. When them soldiers would come down into the swamps, man, we would come out of nowhere. They said it was like they just appeared out of nowhere and just messed us up. Okay?
Right, so now Genesis 49 and 19. Yeah, the troops shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last.
That's right, because what's happening now, at the end, the Most High gonna raise up the tribes of Gad and Reuben, primarily 144,000 out of the nation of Israel, but 12,000 of Gadites and 12,000 Reubenites, the Most High is going to raise up here on this side. And those are going to be the Gadites and the Reubenites that's going to wake up to the truth, come back to the reality of who we really are, Gad and Reuben of the nation of Israel. And the Lord is going to raise these men up and give them spiritual power. And along with the rest of the tribes, we're going to put our foot up Esau's ass. So in the end, we're going to get the last laugh on Esau. Okay, talking about Gad and Reuben. The Lord is going to raise up Gad and Reuben, 12,000 out of each tribe of Gad and Reuben. Men.
That's right.
Okay, the women, don't worry about the women. They're in the background. They're going to be the wives of those men. Okay? It's talking about the men of those tribes. Alright?
Okay, guess maybe we can end,
we'll end it on this after you read that.
Okay, this is the book of Deuteronomy chapter 33 verse 20. It says, and of Gad he said, blessed be he that enlargeth Gad. He dwelt, which is going into the land of Gad. Because see, not just North America was Gad, but you got Canada, Canada, which is really Hebrew, the fourth part of Canaan, right? Which they call it the unknown, right? Which Canaan, kind of unknown terrain or unknown territory.
So that proved right there to the Israelites.
Yeah. You know, and that's why you got up there in Canada. Well, you got brothers in the camps out there, but you got a community. You got Gad all up in Canada.
That's
man.
like the Chippewa, the Ojibwe, the Cree. Okay,
that was Gadite's land. So the Lord did bless Gad with that land, and guess what? That's why Esau, these devils, they coveted it, man. And it ain't that they didn't know what was over here. They knew about what was over here, man. They knew, and they knew that the tribe of Reuben and Gad and the rest of the tribes were inhabiting the Americas, man, from all the way from Canada down to South America.
You want to know why? Right? Because they knew that. Because the Vikings, which the Vikings, the Norsemen, they were so-called black men, Israelites.
Yep.
And the Norsemen or the Vikings, they came over here. They were the first so-called Europeans, but they were black Europeans that came over here and traded with Gad. Okay? So people in Europe, or the Israelites, the black men that was ruling Europe, they knew that there were people over here.
And they knew back during the time of King Solomon, you got Hiram of Biff. They knew that this was the region where he was coming, getting the certain wood and trees that they had over here. So they always knew, man. All right? It says, blessed be he that enlargeth Gad, he dwelleth as a lion, and teareth the arm with the crown of the head.
Tear up the arm, they would take the feathers, or they would take a knife, okay, and they would do what was called the blood brother pack. Yep. Sometimes if you had a feather, you use a sharp feather. You wore the eagle feathers, and you were able to pierce your skin with a feather, with the quill of the feather, right? And mingle your blood with the other person's blood, and that meant We're brothers for life. This is a blood brother pact.
Blood brother, yeah.
All right? And the lion goes back to the war paint. Because when we would put that war paint on, it gave you the appearance of a lion. That was meant to frighten your enemy.
Yeah.
Okay?
Right. It says, and he provided the first part for himself because there in a portion of the lawgiver was he seated. When the tribes came over to this side, you know, that's why Gad was looked at as the so-called spiritual men, the medicine men, and you know, when they had certain issues, that's what they would go to. They would go to, you know, consult with them.
Yeah, well, or in a Wachashawakan, which means a holy man. Okay?
Clan leaders. Yeah.
That's right.
Right. It says, and he came with the heads of the people, he executed the justice of the Lord and his judgments with Israel.
That's right, man. So, with this information in the scriptures that we brought out, if you have spiritual sense, you can clearly see that the Native Americans, so-called Native Americans, are the tribes of Gad and Reuben, man. Okay, but you know what? For the people that's blind, you're going to continue to be blind. It's not for you anyway, man. This is only for the elect. So primarily, really, we just bringing it out for edification's sake. So with that, I'm going to say shalom to the elect. And this has been another episode of the Final American Indian Uprising. Shalom.
Many generations now, we have suffered. The Washichu we spoke to, but they don't hear, they're deaf. The women, the children, the old ones, they suffer. You from the cities, you are our warriors, our warriors. They're deaf. We must now walk in the sacred way.